Smart 24, driving business.
What we are doing right now is doing sectional repairs as we await the overhaul. For instance, here on Salama Road.
Sangobe was public land. Some 8 years ago, some clever people came up and got a land title.
The weaknesses in the process of recruitment tend to cause questions in the destination countries.
The local companies are going to be small. They are not likely to sign those contracts with the oil producers.
And now let's get right onto it as we kick it off with the land conflicts in Buganda. Now, Buganda caucus members of parliament have warned the government about how public land is offered to some persons cheaply, who afterward sell it to investors who evict large numbers of people without providing them with fair compensation. In this report, Sabna Hanifa uncovers them all.
The lawmakers who are commanded by Buganda caucus leader Mwanga Chivumbi emphasized how frequently certain people evict helpless people while still acquiring public land cheaply.
Some 8 years ago, some clever people came up and got a land title. They are now the owners of land. The land that was freely occupied by people. Now these fellows say, we are going to compensate you because they've now sold to Bidco or whoever wants to grow palm oil. And for how much? They say you are 800, we are going to give you, was it 600 million or 6 billion? When you divide, each one was going to get 750,000 Ugandan shillings to relocate. When one give up land, then you relocate and find another place to live on and find life. It's not only unfair, but scandalous.
Honorable Chivumbi urges that government should empower its citizens by giving them tools they need to develop lands needed by investors rather than giving investors complete freedom to evict vulnerable Ugandans.
You have 800 families occupying land of about 7 square miles, very fertile land, good for palm oil production. There is an investor that wants to come up and forever process palm oil. Now, if you wanted to empower your people, to make them richer, the question is that you would attract this investor to establish a factory. Then empower your people with the seedlings, with everything, to grow and supply this factory with palm. So your people will go richer and the investor will get what he wants. But for how this government works, is that now the owner of the factory will be the one owning the palm plantation, will be the one owning the land, will be the one dealing in wholesale, will be the one retailing. Where is the stake for your people?
Additionally, lawmakers have sent a warning to government regarding the land fund which was approved by Parliament, but it's not being utilized in the Buganda region, as evident in Bunyoro area where it is used.
We want to see this land fund, which is contributed to mostly by the people in Buganda. This is where most taxes come from. We want to see him distribute land titles to Bibanja holders who are suffering, and then pay off the landlords. The landlords have got ownership of their land, and the Bibanja holders have ownership of their Bibanja, but creates dual ownership because it is the same entity that they are scrambling for. So why should a solution that is working in Bunyoro not be the same solution working in Buganda when you are using public resources?
The acquisition of forest land has also come under scrutiny because it is harming the nation's ecosystem, although those who do so pay only 320 shillings, letting wildlife roaming free, which in turn is harmful to the residents.
The point of acquiring forest land is here. The forests, of course, contribute to our ecosystem. Recently, I heard members from within the urban centers complaining about monkeys. It was brought to the floor of Parliament. Where are the monkeys coming from? The monkeys are coming from where the forests were. They are no longer housed anywhere. They can spread various diseases called zoonoses caused by animals. What about the butterflies, the bats, and so on? So when somebody destroys the ecosystem, they don't know the externalities. Health externalities, climatic changes, and so on. So the new land acquisition is descending on forested land, rainforests. Here, they are no longer going to the Bibanjas. No, you will cry plasma. You will scare them because it is a source of livelihood. But a source of livelihood which is not direct are the forest lands. These ones have been destroyed all over.
We all agree that land is a factor of production, and after Parliament approving the land fund, very many Ugandans had hope that this would address the issue of land in this country. However, up to now, land remains a challenge in this country. Samla Hanifa, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
And now let's look at road maintenance in Kampala. Kampala City Council Authority has received funding equivalent to $288 million, approximately 1 trillion, from African Development Bank to reconstruct 69.9 kilometers of roads in Kampala City. The Kampala City Council Authority Executive Director Dorothy Chisaka points out that this is more than just a road. It will involve street lighting as well as pathways and drainage. However, locals have castigated KCCA efforts, saying it's just paperwork. Pedison Momberek reports.
With funding from the African Development Bank worth $288, that's over 1 trillion Uganda shillings, Kampala's Capital City Authority administration has finalized plans to rehabilitate 69.9 kilometers of roads in Kampala.
But when it comes to overhauling the roads, we've received substantial funding, $288 million, which is 1 trillion shillings, that is going to overhaul a total of 69 kilometers, excess of 69 kilometers. The roads we are going to rebuild are going to be wider than the current roads. They're going to have drainages, they're going to have walkways, they're going to have street lights. So these are going to be really modern, up-to-date roads, which we believe will last 15 to 20 years in the city.
The Kampala Capital City Authority Executive Director Dr. Dorothy Chisaka claims that by facilitating movements, this will enhance the business environment. Dust, which has a negative impact on the most people's businesses, will also be eliminated. That's why government has embarked on an emergency pothole repairs in all divisions to keep the roads motorable.
All the potholes, we have identified them. We don't need people going around taking pictures to send us. We have the pictures. We know where the potholes are, and we are fixing them. We are fixing them to make sure that the roads are motorable, even those which are going to be ultimately overhauled in the next 36 months.
These people just come for inspection and run away. These people are wasting time. If tarmacking is expensive, let them leave.
The condition of the roads in the Uganda's capital has recently raised complaints among a number of members of the public. The majority of the Kampala's roads are littered with potholes, which pose danger in terms of congesting lanes of traffic and harming cars.
The funding is not enough. We do what we can, and government has really come out. In the last project of KIDIP 2, we did 29 kilometers. These are roads. They are still existing. We have, you all know Stretcher Road, you know Kulambiro Road, you know the Kabusu Bunamwaya Road. Those are brand new roads that government has given us money to do.
Kampala Capital City Authority currently receives only 26 billion per year to maintain the roads. Reports indicate that KCCA annual consumptive budget cannot build all the infrastructures. Bedson Mumbere, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Now let's talk matters labor externalization to Saudi Arabia. The government approved the resolution back in October 2021 to do away with the Interpol certificate need for international travel. Betty Amongi emphasized that those entering the security industry should be the group of people who would need Interpol certificate in her letter to the Ministers of Internal Affairs, Gender, Labour and Social Development. Now, following the expiration of the argument between Uganda and Saudi Arabia in December, the Saudi authorities recalled Interpol as a condition to obtaining a work visa in the nation. The Ugandan recruitment agencies have given their opinion regarding this new directive. Bronia Katusime with more.
The letter of good conduct serves to confirm whether or not a person has a criminal record or whether or not they are on the list of sought criminals in any Interpol member states before they travel outside of the country. According to Ronnie Mukundani, PRO of the Uganda Association of External Recruitment Agency, the new Saudi Arabian guideline states that any persons wishing to obtain visas would need to produce the certificate of good behavior in order to obtain employment.
And use of the Interpol letter or the letter of good conduct is to ascertain or to weigh or to understand the criminal record of a particular individual. So it was an easy decision for the cabinet to remove this Interpol. And business has been good because that was a cost that was removed from the process, which was over 79,000 Uganda shillings. Now, in the new directive, we believe, based on the changes at the Saudi embassy, our members have been advised to provide letters of good conduct or Interpol certificates before they can acquire visas for their candidates to travel. So, and of course, if that is the directive from a different country, particularly Saudi Arabia, then there's no way you're going to acquire that certificate without that, to acquire that visa without that condition.
The issuance of certificates of good conduct is required to generate at least 3 billion shillings in revenue for the Interpol Directorate each year. For instance, Interpol received shillings 2.9 billion in 2019, the least amount over the previous 3 years, from granting certificates of good conduct as opposed to shillings 3.9 billion in 2020. To get the certificate, each applicant must pay 76,000 shillings. The return of Interpol into hiring process, according to Abdallah Kayonde, the president of the Migrant Workers' Voice, is mostly the result of screening flaws that allow candidates who don't satisfy the requirements to land positions and ultimately be sent home for bad behavior.
By Saudi Arabia, for the fact that they found out some of our own, the migrant workers, were not qualifying. Somebody goes there and wants to put a knife on the boss, such a person, and we also find that the training centers have also done us more harm than good. They train girls to react as such to workers, to their bosses. companies have failed to recognize that they do not qualify or they are incompetent in protecting workers due to the fact that they already sold them there. So they are incompetent. They are not the right people to be in the process of protection. It should be either left to government or an independent body that concerns workers' affairs. Then protection will be better. But if it is left in the hands of companies, companies will not fail to direct, or even these trading centers, to guide the workers to fight against the bosses. You see, it's like eating your cake and you assume to have it. You end up creating something that is really very funny. So the interpose, it is necessary. We cannot tell Saudi Arabia, once it requires these interpose, not to. Before we thought it could ease the process. So we have got now to bear. They either agree to do the process in a clean way and take the right people to Saudi, or they choose to do interpose before leaving, such that they screen out our members.
In its newly proposed Employment Amendment Bill 2022, the government intends to declare some employment conducted by Ugandans, with the exception of situations where Uganda has agreements with foreign nations. Bet Among, the Minister of Gender, Labour and Social Development, presented the bill to Parliament in December. Bronya Katsime, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Now let's look at what the President has to say on the national local content. As the National Local Content Bill 2022 was approved by Parliament on September 7th, 2022, with the exception of the oil and gas and petroleum industries. Now, the bill aims to prioritize Ugandan people and the locally owned businesses in public procurement by imposing local content responsibilities on anyone using the public funds, utilizing Ugandan natural resources, or engaging in activity that needs a license. We have more in this report.
The overall goal of the national local content is to require local content from everyone who uses public resources or engages in activity in Uganda with a license. A significant number of contracts are given to businesses that are registered in Uganda but are not owned by indigenous Ugandans.
The definition of the local content law, again commendable job by government, but the current data from Ministry of Finance says that the proportion of the value of contracts to local farms is 61%, but of these, 53% of the value of the contracts goes to companies domiciled in Uganda. In other words, companies that may not be necessarily fully owned by indigenous people. So as a business sector, whereas we appreciate foreign capital, it would be great to have the percentage of the value of these contracts go high for businesses.
In response, he claims that any investment in Uganda belongs to Uganda because there are certain quality resources that these foreigners cannot afford and can only be obtained here.
Best in Uganda is part of our GDP, gross domestic product. Bugaga wafe nolwekyo abagenda nebagamba nti factory y'omuyindi muli mu nsobi kubanga factory z'abayindi ziri buyindi teziri wano. Buli factory yona eri wano yaffe, oba ya muyindi oba ya muchina kasitebera wano yaffe.
He further made a distinction between the GDP and the GNP, which the country needs to establish.
Trump was fighting with, because many Americans went to China and opened factories there. So the factories of the Americans in China were part of the GNP of the Americans, but zigagawaza China. So Trump yari akivumirira nti the Chinese are taking our So please, don't discriminate. A business owned by a Ugandan citizen and a business domiciled here, that's what you are saying. Domiciled here, but owned by a non-Ugandan, zona zafe.
Even though the president had declined to assent to it and had returned it back to Parliament on August 18, 2020, citing provisions that would put Uganda on a parallel course with international community, 7 among others cited Section 4 of the bill that tasked a local content entity to give preference to goods that are manufactured in Uganda as well as services that are provided by Ugandan entity. Rona Nahabwe, Business Today, Smart 24 TV.
Now let's head to the north of Africa, where gold production in Sudan has continued to rise. Now the latest data shows that Africa's gold production is increasing, and Sudan had the highest gold production in 2022. The Sudanese Mineral Resources Company estimates that more than 18 tons of gold was produced in 2022. Martha Nimsima with the report.
Sudan has not attracted the mining investment of many other African nations because of its recent civil war experience. However, Sudan is considered to be Africa's next major gold mining destination, according to the mining officials of the nation. Sudan is the world's 10th largest producer of gold, despite the fact that the majority of its natural deposits are yet untapped. Each year, mining in Sudan contributes roughly 90 tons of gold to the worldwide market. The majority of this is mined in the Hasai gold mine, which also mines iron ore and base metals. In 2022, more than 18 tons of gold were expected to be produced, according to the Sudanese Mineral Resources Company. The body called it the highest productivity in Sudan's history of mineral industry. In a press release issued on Monday, Engineer Aldin Al, the director of the General Administration for Supervision and Control of Production Companies, stated that the productivity had increased by 1 ton and 611 kilograms since the highest production in the previous period, which was released in 2019. The 18 tons and 637 kilograms of gold that were produced in 2022 came from the organized sector, which included concession companies and businesses that dealt with typical mining waste. According to estimates, more than half of South Sudan gold is exported illegally, with the revenues frequently being used to fund the country's civil war. In March 22, the Central Bank of Sudan issued a new curricula to the banks and relevant authorities that outlawed the export of gold by government organizations, foreign nationals, people and businesses with the expectation of concession, with companies engaged in mining. In accordance with the curricula, the Central Bank of Sudan was also permitted to buy gold in order to increase its reserves. Martha Nimsima, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
And right now, let's head into a break. We shall return with more business today, including the coffee pot.
Smart 24, driving business.
Bulu magic is my joy. Ono bulu magic wange. Ayo Talaba kumabala atukuza nonyirira okirako enyange. Tayisa bubi fabriki chona chechiri chigwa lwa bulu magic. Bulu magic is my choice. Ono bulu magic ye wange. And the bulu magic is my choice. Hey, ono bulu magic ye wange.
Say goodbye to paperwork and travel costs. Now every MTN customer can register to invest in securities anytime and anywhere with Zabu in a few simple steps. Step 1. Dial *292#. Step 2. Select option 1. register with Zabu. Step 3, enter your full names. Step 4, enter your national identification number. Step 5, enter your national identification card number. In 24 hours, you will receive an SMS confirming your registration. Congratulations, you are now ready to invest.
Smart 24, driving business.
All right, we'll be back from that particular break. Let's continue with business today. Now, in our coffee cup discussions tonight, according to the Uganda Registration Service Bureau, a high copy and pest syndrome, unemployment, and unplanned retirement cause 60% of Ugandans to enter the business world unintentionally with little room for preparation. Now, over 12,000 of the 20,000 companies that were launched in 2021 have already shut down. And in the coffee court today, Fred Makuya discusses business management with Charles Ochichi, the Executive Director of Enterprise Uganda. Here is the discussion.
Well, it is a pleasure and thank you for joining us on the Coffee Court. This is where we ask the critical questions, but most importantly, questions that drive us to thinking big. 2023 must be a year of difference, and how we make that different is the question we are here to answer. Now, over the last 10 to 20 years, there are many businesses that have collapsed in this country. Talk about Nakumatt, talk about ShopRite, talk about AfriCell, and other huge, big business. On this Coffee Court, we ask why and how do we address the why. Joining us to discuss this is Dr. Ochichi. He is in charge of Enterprise Uganda as the Executive Director. Dr. Ochichi, thank you for joining me.
My pleasure, and happy to be right here. Extremely happy.
Happy 2023.
Thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to a great year.
People are saying this is going to be a positive year. It's going to be a year that we can't compare to the previous year. Is that so in your perspective as a person in charge of
Clearly,
business?
each time you have gone through a challenge and you survive it, you are stronger than before you got the challenge.
That's motivational.
People who have crossed 2022 with all its scars and bleeding and everything else, and you come out of the other side, you have to be better than what you were before that war came in. So 2023 should be a year where we can ride on that resilience that took us through a difficult year. 2023 should also be a year where we are saying the energy that had gone down because of the purchasing power that was disrupted should come back in the marketplace. Take advantage of that. It's a year of recovery. It's a year of repositioning. And so it's a year of saying there are many things we didn't know that we were taught by a difficult 2023, a difficult 2021.
You've turned into a preacher. That's motivation and inspiration, which doesn't last.
You know, if there be something that God said, you should never lose its hope. The moment a human being loses hope, you've lost all. And hope can be acquired from looking at so many shades of silver lining in the clouds that you've had. You still have health, use it. Many are in hospitals. Many have lost life. Many have lost ability to be normal. So hope is key. Nobody who wants to make a society strong should avoid to inject a sense of hope.
So let's make this hope alive. The businesses are collapsing. Is it something that should worry government? Is it something that should worry you, the business consultant? Is it something that should worry us as a nation? You see business collapsing, Nakumatt, ShopRite, AfriCell. There are so many that if I began mentioning them, I can't finish them. Is it something that should worry us anyway?
I would be deeply worried if the businesses are collapsing because those market segments have disappeared. When Nakumatt disappeared, Mega Supermarket came in, Carrefour came in, and the experience with those ones is so beautiful. People are continuing as if there was no disappearance of a Nakumatt. What does that say? There was something that Nakumatt should have done, they didn't do. Carrefour now is doing it. Mega Supermarkets now doing it. Capital shoppers that was in the space before didn't leave. The shopping population has continued to shop. That is the story the Ugandans, the population should be looking at. Somebody has disappeared. Have the customers disappeared? No. There was a company that was called Sebagal & Sons, a prestigious, excellent Ugandan-owned entity.
I think everybody must be familiar with that company.
If you wanted electricals, if you wanted bulbs, if you wanted the most genuine items, head down there. It went. Go and check that space and see the volume of growth. It's more than 10 times. Where is the market leader? Where are the customers? Where are the people who are making the sector grow 10 times? So those are the fundamental kind of questions that you get from a business consultant, rather than the general cry of saying, oh, the market is difficult. Even the big one has disappeared.
No, but that's the truth. The market is difficult, Doctor.
Very difficult.
Very.
The truth is, it will continue to be very difficult because of the two fundamentals of the marketplace. One of them is, if you want to enter the private sector and remain there, show me a customer who was happy with your solution yesterday and is coming back. If you show me a person who came and bought and is continuing to come back, please, you are fighting a good fight. And to make that work, you must have good workers, good technology, efficiency, and everything else. And you must continuously update yourself on the demands from the consumer. Is that easy? Never. You are number one. Is it a guarantee that you'll be number one? Never. But if you master this number one, which can only be confirmed by repeat business. Number two is coming to give you hell. Number two is people are seeing you earn money. They also want to earn money. Competition is coming. If you cannot cope with the competition, and when the competition is coming, they want your good employee.
No, but
they want your good customers. They don't want to come and start from say, no, this is owned by so and so, let's leave them in peace. They are coming for your customers, they are coming for your employees. That territory will never change.
The MTNs are going through the same competition. They are not closing.
That's what I'm saying.
Many of them, they're not actually closing business.
That's a good example to learn from. In other words, why didn't Nakumatt pick and leave from there? The airline industry is so ferocious, but people are still there. And if anything, they lift themselves even more. Look at the Japanese companies. Did you know that each time Toyota makes their next beautiful pickup, the first customers are Nissan?
Why it refers to Japan and other countries?
Because
we are discussing matters that concern Uganda as a country. Why keep referring us to companies outside Uganda?
Because the beauty is this. Ugandans know what a pickup from Toyota is. They know what a pickup from Nissan is. And they imagine that those two don't compete each other. Ferocious competition. And if Uganda needs to appreciate what it means to be in a business arena, they should never imagine there's a secluded market called Ugandan market. While you are doing business downtown in Katwe, somebody from Nairobi is observing what you are doing and it's coming for you. If you are not watching your territory, including a potential entrant from Katwe, Nairobi, you won't last.
Are you saying huge businesses are paying attention to small business? Somebody is holding business in Nairobi and is paying attention to Chikubo?
This is the message.
For what reason?
This is the message. The moment you have occupied your space, just know that everybody is watching what you are saying because we saw you take money yesterday. If you took money yesterday, I also need money. Now, if I see, because very few businesses are done at midnight. Almost all businesses are done daytime when everybody is watching. And because of that, we're all interested. So, just be aware, whatever you are doing is being done by a human being. And whatever human being is doing, any other person can try and do it. In other words, the trait of learning, the day you postpone it, or even if you begin to learn just within your small pond, you are finished. This is not about politics, LOC5. Oh, I'm the LOC5 of Liantonde. Nobody will enter my territory. That's politics, not in business. In business, the business person from Masakas entered Liantonde. A business person from Bararas entered Liantonde. A business person from Amrua is entering Liantonde. There's no LOC5 Liantonde in business.
So are you aware they're only closing in Uganda and they're being successful in other countries? Same leadership, both at the apex. They're only failing out in Uganda, but in other countries like Kenya, they're being very successful.
It would be very, very deceptive for Chichi to associate with that statement, much as I sympathize with it. I sympathize with it because it makes people feel good. But also Chichi, a man whose arena on the business arena is so broad and always on the ground, I'll tell you this, Nakumatt has closed from Kenya. The owner of Nakumatt is a fugitive. Atul Shah is wanted in Kenya and is running. He's running. He left chaos in the entire economy. Never paid suppliers. Never paid landlords. He has become a fugitive. Now somebody might say, oh, the fellow took off from Uganda and maybe didn't do things in Uganda. Now he has gone to hide in Kenya. Step in Kenya. I'm just giving that one as an example.
As an example.
The moment you fail in a particular territory, never talk about geographical inability.
Sure.
Because the same territory where you have just pulled out from, somebody is flourishing. Somebody is flourishing. Barclays is jumping out of Africa. ABSA is expanding in Africa. You get my point? ABSA had never gone across the continent. Today, ABSA is saying, this is my time, this is my day. Give Barclays another 5 years, they will be back here. But timid and trying to get back inside. They did so about 15 years ago, they disappeared. Leaving only head office here, left out all the other territories. They came back full bang. Then again now at head office they say, our African resources are too small compared to the supervisory costs. Let's pull out of Africa. They will do the analysis again 15 years from now and they will say, there are better returns in Africa than other continents. Let's go back to Africa. In business, there are no constant positions. Dynamics are many. Sometimes like the Barclays decision, they are simply saying, we want a return of a certain volume compared to effort we're putting in. Now, if the return is not of that volume, for now, they jump out. But Barclays was doing extremely well in Africa. It was not loss-making. In Kenya, they were top range. In South Africa, they were top range. But now they say, compared to the resources we have in Africa, if we can pull those now and take to Eastern Europe, we'll do better. Not because Africa was bad.
So how do we address the why and why these businesses are actually fading? What is it that we must pay close attention to so that a local Ugandan out there may know how to manage business and sustain it? It's one thing to start, and sustainability is also another thing. Doctor.
So I go back to the principles that I described. If you want to go to the private sector, there are two laws that will keep you there. First of all, get you in, and then keep you there. Those two laws, number one, is deliver a solution that meets customer expectations. No matter how big you are, no matter how tiny you are, no matter whether you have a leg or you have no legs, are you selling the eggs that I want? So I have not come into the marketplace asking for where there are orphans. Where are they located? I'm asking for eggs. That's rule number one. Rule number two says, even when I buy eggs from you today, if you do not maintain the quality I tested yesterday, I'm out of the market. My shilling is not coming to you. So those are what I call the entry and sustainability rules. Now, how to maintain these rules is a set of things that you must address. And I normally take people that all the 5 pillars of running an enterprise must be working. You can be micro, you can be mega, you can be multinational, but number one is leadership and governance. It must be working. The leadership and governance is where you're supposed never to get satisfied with what you did last year. We're in 2023. What targets have you put for 2023? Or are you simply saying, well, I survived 2023, God was great? God is simply saying,
He was
what
great.
did you do last year that you must ride on and get better? That's the first pillar.
Okay.
The second pillar is saying, your human resource must add value. This business of saying, I'm here to give jobs for my people. Stop that statement if you're a business person.
Because you can't let your brother or sister sit home. When you have something to offer in terms of employment.
Give the person money if they must be assisted. A customer is not coming to buy from Ochichi's business because he has employed relatives. The day I hear people going to buy from Nakumat or from, now it is Carrefour now, that please, Carrefour owner, how many relatives have you employed who are coming to buy because of that? Forget it.
This is Uganda,
HR must, and that's the fact.
This is Uganda. I can't let my brother sit home,
that is
unemployed with 2 degrees, hopefully masters, hopefully PhD.
And this is Uganda, whereby if your business has closed and everybody is watching and saying, you failed because you put in too many relatives. Is that still a beautiful way of saying, I'm Uganda, I have collapsed because I supported relatives? Will anybody clap for you for that?
So you let them stay home?
The same Uganda, that you are saying, this is Uganda, we should employ relatives. You collapse. Everybody is judging you right from a gate man, a sweeper. They will be saying, you know, the thing was still doing well, but I used to see my boss bringing relatives. They will not even do anything here. And this how, who is assessing the business? A cleaner. Never underestimate ability of people to know what's logical. Do you think this is Ugandan? You collapse and you see the judgment. Everybody will be telling you, we knew.
You seem to be attacking everybody right from the apex to everybody.
I'm concerned in one thing.
Because that may seem to be a game. Not everywhere, but somewhere.
I'm concerned in one message. Enter the private sector. Whatever you are wearing, relatives, friends, tribe, titles, private sector is simply saying, are you delivering the right solutions? Can I come back? Number 2, are you able to compete for my money even tomorrow? The rest is additional. Employing a relative is not bad, so long as these 2 are there. Looking after all the orphans in the country, so long as these 2 are there. Looking after anybody you want to give anything, so long as these 2 are there. The moment these 2 are not there, the people you're trying to look after, can you continue doing it?
Absolutely, it is a no. So you talked about the 5, you only mentioned that only two of them.
But those 2, first of all, they will tell you, to succeed in business, you need 3 things. 1 is people, 2 is people, and 3 is people. And that's number 2. Now there's number 3. If these 2 are good people, you confirm through what's happening in pillar number 3, operations. That's where losses, efficiencies, are created. If your losses are massive because of the way you operate your thing, by the time you are delivering chicken on the table, half of the chicken the other side has gotten rotten or has been stolen. Do not expect to compete in business because of pillar number 3. Pillar number 3 is where you beat people in pricing, beat people in delivery, beat people in service. Pillar number 3. But if you do these 3, excellent. The products are coming through in the market. Number 4 is waiting. Number 4 is saying marketing and customer care. I want to be told that if my food is a bit cold, don't start saying, no, it is like that. Quickly ask me, what should it have been? Respond, learn, repeat, do all those kind of things constantly.
You have said it is important that you satisfy customers from December to January, January to December. Yes. Is that possible in the real world and in the real sense?
In the real world, this is what's possible. You remain a learner. In other words, if I complained yesterday, did you find out why? In other words, I'm not expecting you to be an angel.
You are only one customer. Why should I pay attention to you?
That's the point.
Your contribution is negligible. Your contribution can't be felt. I have more than 99 customers.
Very good.
Why pay attention to you alone?
Good. If the complaint I have just given you is a reflection of the next 99 customers, just imagine the volume of business that will disappear in a week. Be grateful that somebody spoke. Because if you just silence this one, like the way we want to show people and say, I have been around here, I've been the biggest, everybody has come here. Who wants to buy because of history? History is important, but to just confirm what I'm going to consume today. It is not important because I'm buying history. I'm buying what history is making me to expect today. So the one person who has spoken, reward him. And call him again and again and say, thank you so much for having spoken. You spoke for 99 of my customers. I didn't know my staff were mistreating people. Now I'm going to address that issue. So if Ugandans who are watching this show want to know that they need to succeed in business, welcome a complaining customer. Well, and he's complaining because of two things. One, he doesn't want to go away. He feels he has gotten used to this territory. Number two, he has referred so many customers to you, so many friends to you. And he feels, and when he gets out, all the friends will be calling him and saying, oh, Chichi, this place you referred me to, they are useless now. He feels as if it is him.
So feedback is very, very critical.
Extremely.
Discussion regarding how we can be able to sustain business definitely continues. Your parting shots, Dr. Charles or Chichi.
Running an enterprise creates a person I can call a global citizen. The moment you are successful in business, you are needed everywhere. We don't want to ask your tribe. We don't want to ask your age. We don't want to ask where you came from. We're just looking for your solutions. But to achieve that, master the 2 entry points and 2 sustainability points. Deliver a functional solution. Be ready to compete. But then address the 5 pillars of enterprise success: governance and leadership, human resources, operations, marketing and customer care. And then the last one we think is the most important, which is finance. This one can only do a good job when all these 4 are functional. Thank you so much.
This is the Coffee Court. If you want to live wise and walk like wise people, you definitely must surround yourself with people who are wise. You want to be a doctor, don't look for Chichi because he's a business expert. But if you want to succeed in business, definitely you must look for him. He is Executive Director of Enterprise Uganda, and this is the Coffee Court. My name is Fred Makubuya.
And of course, that is the Coffee Court tonight and bringing us to the end of business today. But before that, we take a recap of our top stories.
What we are doing right now is doing section
1 billion shillings has been set aside for Kampala City Council Authority roads. And in the other news, the land grabbing spree within the country has caused legislators to have their say regarding what government has to do. But on the other hand, labor export, tough times ahead as the Saudi Arabian government sets new rules on visa. And then something to do with the illicit trade in the country and startups. Well, I'm Jerome Paul Sonko with Winnie Wins and Akoti on sign language. Many thanks for being part of us tonight. We've been coming to you live from Block 42, Nile Avenue. Have a blessed night. Till tomorrow. Good evening.